Welcome to the podcast where we bring on remarkable people to tell their stories.
I'm Paul Gilman.
I'm Daniel Lance.
And this is Pod So One.
Rachel Adcock is a survivor of Hodgkin's lymphoma and the author of the book Pain with Purpose. Her experience with cancer, as well as a few other twists and turns, led her to write the book as an optimistic commentary on how difficult and painful situations in her life always ended up fulfilling a greater purpose. You can find the book Pain with Purpose on Amazon for exactly $8.03, and all proceeds go to the American Cancer Society. So here's Rachel. Rachel Adcock, welcome to Pod So One. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Boom, I love it. Rachel is joining us because I know she's awesome, and I've known that for a while now. When did we meet? What year?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what year that was.
99?
Yeah, well, no, it would have been
06?
Yeah, 05,
I'm getting
06.
old. My
Probably
years,
05, 06.
My years run together.
Yeah.
It feels like longer ago than that.
Yeah, I feel like I've known you my whole life.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's only been, maybe 15 years-ish?
It's
like
more than half of Daniel's life, so it's been a while.
That's a long time.
I like it. You guys should just use like my life and my age as your metrics.
Yeah, we'll calibrate to that every time.
Yeah.
When we talk about age. So, Rachel, you are born in Texas.
I was, yes.
But did you grow up there?
No, I actually, it's an interesting story. I was born in Dallas. I lived there until I was about 3, and then my mom's parents were in Virginia, and we needed to come visit them. And I can't remember the whole rationale behind it, but anyway, we moved back to Virginia. Then we ended up going back to Texas again. Lived in Irving for a little while. My dad's parents actually lived there, and so we went back there, and then we came back to Virginia again because my mom's parents really needed us to be here, and then I just stayed. So I think since about 3rd grade, I've been in Virginia.
So dad's a Texan, mom's a Virginian.
Yeah, actually, my dad was born in Los Angeles, but his dad moved around a lot just because of his job, and he ended up in Texas at some point, I think because he went to college there. So
Irving, Texas, the second time in Texas, and then when you whipped to Virginia, was that to Crew?
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah.
I'm sure.
I mean, there are good things about Crew. I'm not going to bash it.
There are wonderful people.
My mom loves Crew. She'll live there forever, and she'll never leave, but it's not for me. But
Daniel, have you ever been to Crew?
I thought you were talking about the sport for a second, but you're talking about Crew, Virginia, right?
With an E at the end, yeah.
Yes. No, I have not.
Do you know what famous musician is from Crew?
Willie Nelson.
It's a wonderfully wrong guess.
He's Texan, right?
I'm pretty sure he's Texan, yeah.
I'm not the right one.
How many guesses do I get?
Do you know the answer?
I feel like I do, but I can't.
Oh, no, he's not from Crew. He's from Mahern, or however you say it. But it's the same area, same county.
Doc Watson.
We could stay here all night on this.
Who is it?
Roy Clark is from that area.
Right.
Hee-haw fame. And if you're just a classic country music guy.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought he was from Rice, but maybe that's...
I think he's from Mahern.
Maybe not too far from Mahern.
How do you say it? Mahern?
Mahern, I think.
I mean, you're from the area.
Yeah, you drive down 460, I think. You just go towards Lynchburg, and it's somewhere back
that's exactly
down
right.
that way. Yeah.
So what is Crew, Virginia like?
Well, it's pretty small. I want to say the population was like 3,000 or something the time that I lived there. I don't know what it is now,
County,
but
right?
it's part of Nottoway. It's one of the 3 parts of Nottoway County, and it's all railroad town. It's when everybody knows everybody, and it's a good, safe place to live, and had a lot of friends growing up, but just wasn't really the place I wanted to stay. So.
Did you enjoy it as a kid?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some fond memories of that. I don't know if it was unique to Crew or just,
being a kid.
Yeah, there's just not a whole lot to do there. It's about an hour drive to go to Richmond and to get to anywhere that has stuff going on. And but some people prefer that, more rural area. So
yeah, if you drove southwest or north out of there, you were going to be driving for a long time before you found a city.
Yeah, I mean, Farmville is really the closest, I'd say, big city. I've got that in quotations.
It's called Farmville.
Farmville.
Right, so it's it's not Philly.
Exactly.
Here's a clue, yeah. So did you find yourself trying to get out of Crew and go to, Richmond, for example, to go to, I don't know, concerts or fun city stuff?
Yes, I did as soon as I could. We did some of that as a kid. I remember we used to go to, I don't know, car shows and just different stuff. My parents would go to Richmond periodically. But when I graduated from high school, I left there not too far after that. I actually ended up moving to Blackstone myself, just like moving out on my own, which is like the bigger town within Nottoway County. And it was where I worked at the time. I worked at Hardee's, just like my first job.
Yeah, I've been to that Hardee's.
And actually my
several
only
times.
job before where I'm working now. So
Hardee's to
The
Yeah.
big bank.
the big bank that
Nobody will ever guess the name of.
Yeah.
yeah, corporate America. So yeah.
All right.
Wow. So Hardee's, it's a job. They pay you, but it's not what I would consider a career.
Right.
So in your career, you've worked at one place.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, when I was at Hardee's, I moved into management, and I worked there while I was going to community college, and so I worked there for it was probably almost about 5 years.
It's a long time. I forgot how long you worked at Hardee's. So when you moved from Texas the second time to Nottoway County, how old were you?
Around 8, I think, 8 or 9. Yeah.
So your formative years were really spent in rural Virginia.
Yeah.
And when you say Blackstone was the bigger place to go,
Oh yeah.
if any of our listeners have been to Blackstone, it is sparsely populated.
Oh yeah.
that whole area.
I mean, the whole area is pretty small.
So if you had time to yourself as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, what were you doing? How did you spend your time?
The main thing I remember doing is just being outside all day long and, playing in, the woods with my friends and in the creek, and I don't know, just coming home dirty, and I don't know, just doing stuff that kids used to do that they don't do anymore.
Did your parents know where you were?
Wish my kids want to do. I mean, generally they knew I wasn't too far, but, I went to my friends' houses a lot. I didn't like to be at home as much. I like to kind of be out and doing things. So.
Yeah. All right. Playing in the creek, as it were.
For example, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, as I got into being, I guess, more of a teenager, I used to, we had a pool hall that was actually down the street from where I lived, and I used to walk there pretty frequently and shot pool. That's one of my favorite hobbies.
Pretty good?
I'm okay for a girl.
Well, I don't know what that means.
I think that means she's good.
I think she's trying to.
I don't know
sucker
if people
us.
who are good tell you they're good.
I mean,
Yeah.
5 years from now, we could be in a pool hall and Rachel's playing, and then she could sucker us.
I'm
Yep.
I'm okay. I'd say I'm okay. I wish I had taken it up as a hobby, and I may still one day, try to be in a league or something. I just never had time for it, but that's how I got into it. Is the pool hall down the street. So
Did you ever win any money playing pool?
nah, never played for money.
Really? Never? Always for fun?
Oh.
How many pool tables in this pool hall?
I don't know, six or seven maybe. It was a pretty
Okay.
small place, but I mean for Nottoway County and for
That's a lot
Prairie
of pool-
specifically,
yeah.
I mean it was
The per capita ratio
More than
is
you might
pretty,
expect.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty solid.
A lot of pool tables per capita. Per capita.
Although, of the things to do in crew, that was one of maybe two. So a lot of people came to the pool hall.
What was the second thing to do?
Oh, I don't know what the second thing was. I was just trying to say it was one of the very few things
there's
to do
probably another thing.
in Crew, Virginia.
Probably like a drive-in theater, maybe
Or playing in the creek?
playing.
Yeah,
in the creek.
no drive-in theater. At some point, Crew didn't even have a grocery store anymore.
Oh,
What do
They
you mean?
did when I was a kid, but now there's not.
Where do
even
you
a
have to go to get
store.
groceries?
Well, you either have to go to, I guess, Blackstone or Farmville, or I think there's like a Dollar General there that, like my mom goes to Dollar General sometimes to
Yeah,
get, odds and ends like milk and bread, that kind of thing. But it's kind of crazy.
Are you an only kid?
No, I have a younger brother, 7 years younger. He actually lives in Colorado.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
You keep in touch with him? Pretty tight with him?
here and there. I wish we were a little bit more connected, but
7 years is a pretty
7
big
years.
gap.
Yeah.
it was hard to keep in touch and have a lot in common with that much of a gap in between us. But talk to him every once in a while.
So how old were you when you left Crew, Nottoway County?
I guess when I completely left, like when I left to come up towards more of the Richmond area, I was about 21.
Okay. And you went to community college before that? Mm-hmm. Which one did you go to?
Well, I went to Southside Virginia Community College, and then I also went to John Tyler when when I came back to this area. I had to divide it up a bit, just with well, I mentioned to you that I had cancer. That kind of changed my direction and my path, and why I actually ended up going to community college to begin with, because I was supposed to go to VCU, and I was ready the fall after my graduation to go there, and then my plans changed, and so that's.
So you learned about you got a diagnosis right after high school?
I got a diagnosis right around the time I was graduating. I don't know if it was right before or right after, but it was, I believe, June of the year that I graduated.
Yeah, so either days before or days after, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And what kind of cancer did you have?
Hodgkin's lymphoma. So you can have Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's. I think Hodgkin's is the more rare form of lymphoma, but also the more curable. So, I mean, I was really blessed of having cancer. The type that I had was a good.
If your backdrop or your reference is cancer, it's better.
Does it typically affect people of a younger age like that?
Yes, actually, my understanding is that Hodgkin's specifically is found more in younger generations than older. I don't know what the exact statistics are, but.
And so, how did you eventually find out? Were you just not feeling well?
Well, it's interesting. I was having chest pains, and my whole childhood I was sick growing up. I always had chronic bronchitis, and I had meningitis in the 8th grade, and
that's no joke. I had meningitis too. It's awful.
Oh, it was horrible. But bad allergies. I don't know. I was just always sick growing up. And anyway, in this particular instance, I was having chest pains, and I actually went to the hospital, and they said that they thought that I had pneumonia. And so they treated me for pneumonia, and then it didn't really get any better. So I went back again, and then they ended up doing like a CAT scan, and they found that I had a tumor, or what appeared to be a tumor. And they were like, well, hey, chances are it's a benign tumor. But it's big enough where it's kind of pressing up against like your bronchial tubes, and that's why you're feeling this pain. Let's do a biopsy and, kind of find out what's going on with it. So they had to, kind of cut me and do a biopsy, and then, of course, found out it was malignant. And but I guess probably a couple months had passed from the first time that I went to find out I had pneumonia to the time that I actually found out that it was cancer.
Wow. So you're like a 17-year-old waiting a couple months for this result to come back. Were you like kind of freaking out?
I don't remember being super stressed about it myself. I think my mom was a lot more stressed about it than I was. But I don't know, the whole thing just kind of crept up on me, and it was kind of, I guess during that time period, I don't know, I don't remember being like, terrified. I just wanted to know what was going on so we could figure out how to fix it. So.
Right.
And how was it ultimately fixed?
Well, shortly after the diagnosis, they decided to start chemotherapy. I couldn't have radiation because it was too close to my heart, and so they were concerned that it would create other problems, and they couldn't also operate on it for that reason either. So I did 6 months of chemotherapy, and living in Crewe, we had to drive back and forth to Richmond every day, for chemotherapy. And you would do it like a few days on and a few days off, because your body has to recover and like rebuild white blood cells in between your treatments. And so I did that for 6 months. And
would you stay in the hospital during each phase?
No, it was mostly outpatient. I did have a period of one or two times where I ended up in the hospital for just like an overnight, just because my blood cells were too low. And so they keep you to evaluate you and, kind of get you back before you go back to everyday life. But
because chemo, like, it kills not just the bad stuff, but it also kills the good stuff.
Exactly.
So you have to balance it out. So I can see how that would throw a big wrench in your plans if you were planning on going to VCU, having to go every day and get treatment like that. So yeah, how did you adapt to that taking over?
I was disappointed at first. I was excited about going to VCU, but I think part of me was kind of scared too. And it felt a little bit more comfortable to stay local, particularly while that was going on, because I just didn't know what was going to become of it. So I think I ended up taking a little time off, and then I started, just community college there, so that way I could be more local and, be close to my family and so forth, even though I was living on my own at that point. But I was still, not too far from my mom. So.
Right. So were you ever like super freaked out by any of it, or you're like, hey, this is what it is, and we'll work through it, and I'll be fine.
You know, I really was pretty positive through the whole thing. It didn't really, you know, it was never anything that I was really worried about. I think the part of it that bothered me more than anything was just losing my hair. You know, being a girl, that's something, particularly at that age, you know, that's a pretty sensitive sort of thing. And, you know, I knew going into chemo that I might lose my hair, but I wasn't sure that it would definitely happen. And then as I started my treatments and I was into it for a few weeks and then a month or so, I mean, I would like take a shower and like I'd put my hand in my hair and I would just have like globs of hair. I mean, it was just that was a really difficult time for me. I finally cut it off really short just so it wouldn't be as, you know, as obvious when I ended up losing it all. But that was probably the worst part of it. So
Yeah, and that's how I learned you are a cancer survivor. I don't know exactly what I said. I'm sure I was trying to be appropriate, and I hope I came across as appropriate, but I said, you have an interesting hairstyle. And I was trying to make small talk, just trying to get to know you a little bit better. And I essentially asked, why is your hair like that? I didn't phrase it that way, but I basically essentially said that, and you said what?
Well, I think I told you it was because I had cancer.
And I'm like, oh.
Which was really just for the purpose of, you know, just making you.
I think we knew each other well enough that
Yeah.
you could do that with me and know that I was going to take it just fine. But I was also going to feel bad about it.
Oh my gosh, no! You're always the most tactful.
Try to be anyway.
Tactful.
Yeah, no, I felt bad.
Daniel may
'cause
disagree with tactful.
I was really just messing with you. I think I actually thought you already knew that for whatever
No, I
reason,
didn't.
and then you didn't. I guess
I had no idea. No idea.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
You definitely wield power over people if you can just kind of drop that. You know, that's a bomb, and they're gonna step back if you throw that out.
oh, if I'm you and I've been through that experience, I'm using any excuse. If you just say hair, I'm going to go there
Yeah.
or anything like that.
And so that wasn't until like a few years, like a bunch of years after. Like, how long was the whole process from diagnosis to remission?
A year and a half tops, but I just had short hair and I just kept it for a while after that. And I'm kind of a creature of habit. I don't make a lot of changes. And at some point I decided I wanted something different, but
Okay. do you get a lot of Pauls asking you like, "Hey, your hair is interesting"?
Paul's the only man that has ever said that to me. No, I'm just joking. There were maybe a few.
Yeah.
Maybe a few mildly inappropriate people inquiring about your hair. Oh, yeah, it's a good times. So you've been in remission for a really long time now. I guess you don't have to worry about that particular kind of cancer coming back. Just a one-time.
Unless it was just, I guess, a coincidence, you know, if I got it again. So I took CAT scans for the first 5 years after being in remission, technically. And once you hit the 5-year mark, they don't do regular checkups anymore after that. So, you know, that first year or two, it was a little uncomfortable, you know, and then now I don't really think about it a lot. But I mean, it's really changed the whole path of my life. And so I think about it in terms of how to, you know, maybe inspire other people that are going through it. You know, what can I share with them to make them feel better about it? And because, like, I think people think of cancer as, you know, oh, you're going to die. And I mean, there are many people that survive cancer and live normal lives. And so there's nothing about my life right now that feels any different because I went through it. But I think my life would have been in a completely different direction if I hadn't been through it. Because when I went to community college, I actually met my husband there.
Oh,
And
there
so,
it is.
So I've put these pieces together like, oh, well, you know, I would have been on a completely different path. I never would have met him, and then I wouldn't have my kids. And
you can't think about that stuff too much, right? Because the what ifs and all the other things around you that could have been on that other path, who knows?
Yeah, and it probably gave you perspective. I mean,
yes.
I don't know if, like, I don't want to ask the question, is it a net benefit or not? I think it's a weird question to ask, but, like, you know, you are who you are in part because of it. So, but great segue into your husband. Let's talk about that a little bit. You met him at community college?
Yep. Yeah, he was going through an electrician program there, and then I was just taking some general study stuff. I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do at the time, and a friend introduced us, and then we ended up running into each other at a later time, actually at a club, But I was like, hey, you're the guy that I met from community college. That's the electrician, right? And then it was kind of history from there.
When you say club, Daniel's a millennial. He may not know exactly what you mean by
I think of
club.
like you know what I mean?
It was a kind of a place like that, but it wasn't too far from Nottoway, so they don't have like those places like in Nottoway County. So it was sort of like an in between kind of.
So what is it? Like a players club?
In between, in between like a square dance and like the kind of club.
Kind of like you walk into a place like that and they might be playing like that kind of music, and then the next song might be some slow country song kind of thing, like
Right.
goes back and forth.
Oh, I love that.
You know,
Wow.
It wasn't like the Flood Zone or anything. Well, you probably don't even know what the Flood Zone is,
Nope.
Daniel. But
Is that
yeah.
a Richmond?
It was a place that had a lot of not famous bands, but maybe locally famous bands right there in the bottom.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually had four.
Actually, right near like Bombs Up Pizza, like in that.
Yeah,
area there.
yep.
Yeah, they had 2 or 3 stages in there. They had a 4th floor that had a stage in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the spot. And then at some point that turned into Have a Nice Day Cafe, and then I don't even know what it is now.
But still concerts.
Yeah, concerts
Have a Nice Day,
and
yeah.
and like just DJ, that kind of thing. But whenever I made it to the big city of Richmond, like tried to
The big city.
venture out a little bit.
Cool. So y'all met. Well, you met, and then you met again, and then who closed the deal? Who was like, "Hey, let's go out"?
Well, I think he did. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Was it love at first sight?
I don't know if I really believe in love at first sight, but it was definitely like I really like you at first sight, and I could see this turn into something kind of thing.
Okay.
Rational response. So, and I already know this, but I will.
You just pulled a Gilman.
I know. I will. I'm going to introduce.
I know this, but let's talk about it anyway.
I'm going to introduce a fact to the listeners that you're the only person I've ever met who has divorced someone and then remarried that same person afterward. So, yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, like the
So
divorce.
round one, how long did the round one last?
Yeah.
Let's see. We were married for about 8 years, and the first few years were great. And then we had my first son, and things were great.
This is about your son. So what's your first son's name?
His name is Jacob,
Jacob.
and he
Shout
is now 16,
He's driving
and he is driving. He actually
because
just
I'm on
got,
Facebook now and I saw that.
he got his driver's license last week,
Is it
and
scary for you?
I am now in one of the more stressful periods of parenthood.
It's awful, right?
It's horrible. I mean,
Oh
it was,
my God, he's not here and I can't control what's going on.
Yeah, well, let me say it was terrifying. And I know we're getting off track, Daniel.
No,
We'll come back.
It was,
We'll come back.
yeah.
It was terrifying, driving with him during the period that he's
first few
learning how to
times
get his
especially.
license. And I'm, where's the brake on the passenger side? Like trying to, shove my foot through the front of the car. And anyway, just that was terrifying. Then I got a little bit more comfortable after I rode with him over and over and over. Then, hey, I've got my license. Now I can actually go out by myself. And I don't know, I hadn't mentally prepared myself for it. And he's ready to roll.
He's
He
like,
already had his
I'm
agenda
gone.
every day. Here's where I'm going. And he hadn't talked to me about any of it. Anyway, that was like a really terrifying day. That was just a few days ago. So I'm still like recovering from that.
At least he didn't plan like a 7-day trip where he was just going to be gone for 7
Well,
straight days.
if it was up to him, he would be gone right now. But
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that's like a big loss of control, and it's like letting them fly out of the nest, kind of, in a small way.
I appreciate that you can identify that because I know it was maybe just a few years ago for you, right?
Yeah,
Daniel?
well, it's funny because
Rachel's giving you more shit than I give you about you.
I
I'm
know.
just messing with you.
I'm trying to be like more wise than I am. But what happened actually was that I was overseas through all of high school, so I never actually learned to drive until I was 19 or 20. So I had to kind of learn late.
Well, you were captive. Your mom was very appreciative that you were captive and didn't have your license when you were 16.
Yeah, well, yeah, I still found ways to run around, but yeah, it's harder without a car. But yeah,
Wow.
So-
I wish that he had wanted to wait that long. But
A lot of kids do now.
yeah, well,
It's
I
weird.
thought that he did. Like when we were talking about this a year ago, he didn't seem like he was in any rush about it. He was fine. And then all of a sudden, it was like,
There's
boom,
so much
I want
power.
my license. Yeah.
Power, and he probably had a couple friends that got their licenses, and he's
Yeah,
like,
maybe that too. Well, and he has a job now. He's been working now for a couple months. I think that's given him some independence, and he's got a few paychecks, and so now driving is the other big thing to do. And
It's cool
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
part
for
of it
him,
is.
not for you.
My
Well,
buddy-
I'm proud of him, right? I mean, he's done a great job.
I've heard of like this thing that people used to do where they just cruise. It's just called cruising. You just drive.
That's hilarious, Dan. Yes, I've cruised before.
I just
Have you cruised, Rachel?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
were you the driver or were you just kind of chilling in the car, just cruising?
I'm just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Daniel making fun of our age.
No, it's just like I've never seen this happen.
There was nothing else to do. That's why you cruised.
Oh, yeah. Especially like, thinking like 17, 18.
There's nothing
Yeah, just
else
drive
to do.
around town. You go through McDonald's parking lot, come back around, go down. And your music is blasting, right, the whole time.
The
You
music's
come back
the big
around.
part, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay, so you had your first son, and then continue the story.
Well, I'd say, the first year or so, a couple years, we're still pretty good, but it takes a big adjustment having a child, for I know you don't know about that yet, Daniel, but soon I'm sure you'll be able to
One
experience
day.
that. But
He'll have to be married, I think, is the way.
But it's a big adjustment to get through that, and then we had my second son Tyler, who was 13, who is very into music, and he's playing bass guitar now. I know you were talking about you
Nice.
playing a little while ago, anyway, things were good at first, but I think just the stress of having like both kids really was kind of taking a toll on us, and I don't know, I mean I don't think we maybe gave ourselves enough time to really mentally prepare for that, and we were arguing a lot, and things had just gotten pretty tough, and we decided it was better to be apart. So
For each other and for the kids.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So we divorced, and at the time, I thought it was the best decision I had made. I mean, as much as I loved him, and the first few years of our marriage were wonderful, it was like this newfound freedom, and I was kind of happy about it at first, and not having the stress of arguing and going through some of the struggles we were having. But then like reality set in, and I did the single mom thing for a while, and having two children and not having like a family together, there is a lot. I mean, obviously. When I have them by myself, that's a lot of extra, work that we were sharing before, but also just sharing the joys of having a child and being able to share that with each other, and those years. And so we were apart for about 6 years.
And how old were the kids, like in that 6-year span?
So they were 1 and 4 to start with. So
Okay.
about 7 and 10 when we remarried.
And were they just staying with you, or were they going back and forth?
They were going back and forth, which also makes it tough. The letting the go and keeping up with the schedule, and you have the different activities and stuff that that come up, and coordinating to make sure that the parents are there to see what's happening, and I don't know. It's just all these added stresses that come with that situation, and.
Different parenting styles too, and usually the blend of parenting styles ends up being the better answer versus one or the or
Exactly.
The other.
I mean, I think both parents play a critical role in the development of kids, and when you're trying to do that and you're apart, and I mean, I'm blessed that that he was still involved during that time period. I know many women do it completely on their own, and I know it's an added something missing, obviously, in a child's life to not have their dad involved. So, I mean, I'm thankful for that, for sure. But, if you were to ask me at the time, when we had first split up, like if things would have changed down the road, I would have had no foresight to that. Like, I would have thought we would have been like that forever. So,
Wow.
at the time, I was thankful for that.
Yeah. So now you've been back together for 6 years-ish. Do you just... When people ask you how long you've been married, how do you answer that question?
I always struggle with that. So, yeah, somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 years. This December would actually be our 20th.
So do you tell people
wow.
19?
No, I subtract that time period. So August 3rd is our new anniversary coming up, and that's I just add the two together, and so that'll be our 6 years. And then 14 if you add the two. But, I've heard of a few people that have gotten married and remarried like 2 or 3 times. And like, I don't know how they do it. I can barely keep up with
Is
this
there-
twice.
is there
It's
a
simple
bl-
math, but I don't know, I struggle.
Is there a blog or something for people that are remarrying their first spouses?
Well, what's interesting is I had never heard about it with anybody. I thought that I was like this kind of unique case. And then after that, I heard of several examples, and maybe it's just because I notice it now and I wouldn't have noticed it before, or because I've shared my own story with people, so they're like, "Oh, hey, actually, my mother's
cousin Billy,
whatever." Yeah, so I was like, "Oh."
So well, I'm curious about the how at what point did you start discussing, hey, maybe it's a good idea for us to get married again? When did that happen?
Well, it's interesting. So, like the first few years, again, like we tolerate each other, we communicated, but that was it. Like we didn't have really
You were co-parenting, but
any
that's about
relationship. That was it. It was just if we had to talk about the kids, otherwise no communication. And then I guess a few years in, like we started to interact a little bit more cordially, and it was sort of this gradual thing. And then 1 year at Thanksgiving, my mother suggested that we invite him over for Thanksgiving dinner, which he had first mentioned. I was like, why? Like, I mean, it'd be nice for the kids, but I don't know. It just seemed really awkward to me, and I was opposed to it. And then I finally just decided, okay, that's fine. I mean, I didn't even know if he would be willing to come, but he did. And so we had a nice dinner, and there was some connection like that evening that I hadn't really felt before. And we just started kind of reaching out to each other after that, and then I guess about 3 or 4 months in, decided to go ahead and get remarried. And
wow.
So,
and was it different? And you said like there was a connection. Is it different from the first time around?
yeah, I would say it was different. I mean, the same in that, like, we have a lot of stuff in common that we, connect with each other about, and all that was the same. But I mean, like the kind of music we like, and things we like to do, shooting pool, like just things that we like to do together. But I don't know. It was a change that I saw in him, and I think the primary part of the change, and this is where I'll throw like kind of my God story into this. He had shared with me around that time that while we were apart, he had found God and had really started to change his life for the better. And I saw that in him. Like, it was a very different. It was just he was a different person than the person I knew before, and I felt like there was really some sort of a transformation. And what was really awesome about that is I had also. So, when I was a kid, I used to go to church, and I feel like I was saved, had accepted Jesus in my life when I was about 14. But I don't think I really got it when I was a kid.
I kind of got it, but not fully.
I didn't really understand it, and I went into my early adult life, and I kind of threw all that to the side and was just living any way I wanted to live, and. Anyway, when I was going through that time period and struggling as, a single mom and the struggles of being alone and just some of the depression I was feeling through that time period, I decided to go back to church, and I learned like the real way, like the relationship that I needed to have with God, and that reliance on God to get me through that time period is like what gave me the strength like to move forward. And coincidentally, he had a similar epiphany during that time period where we were apart, and we could share that with each other. And so I felt like it was God really trying to bring us back together. And because because God wasn't part of our marriage the first time, that was I believe a primary reason why it failed.
Wow. So. And then he was like, you guys had it right. You kind of had it right the first time.
And it's pretty powerful, the two of you finding your faith independently, right? Because some couples, if they come into a relationship and maybe neither one is faithful or they're both faithful, one is pulling on the other one to be more of what they were. And independently coming to that, I think, is super powerful.
Yeah. And we got to give the credit to your mom. I feel like she also gets some of it too, right?
Oh yeah, no, mom definitely does, and she never wanted us to split up. She was devastated when we first did, and I was even frustrated with her at some point because she would always say something about it, and I'm like, respect my decision, and but I think she maybe knew all along. But
Well, Mom was doing that out of love, all of that.
yes,
I think. I don't know your mom.
oh no, she certainly was. But yeah, and so like it's all connected for me because I think I believe myself, and I know everybody doesn't believe this, but I believe that that things happen for a reason, and these connections that we have with different parts of our life, even the bad parts, lead to something better down the road, and we just don't always know what it's going to be.
Like this
and
podcast.
Like this podcast, I was just getting ready to say.
Even the bad parts.
Speaking of wonderful things, this podcast.
I was kidding on the
and
bad
working
stuff,
with
yeah.
like great bosses like Paul Gilman, for example.
Right.
Oh wow, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I connect my cancer to that too. I mean, I think like to a point you were making, Daniel, like it changed my outlook on life and sort of made me feel like appreciate life even more. And like when I was going through that situation, again, I met my husband because of having cancer. If I hadn't gone through that, I never would have met him to begin with. And like, so there was this trickle effect of like the things I saw happening in my life basically ever since I've been an adult and kind of moving through and experiences in my childhood too. But I don't know. I believe that
There's
with
something like
everything in me.
ordained about all of it. Yeah.
And you guys are the happiest you've been, right?
Oh yeah. No, we're great. And we need each other to get through these teenage years too. I can tell you that.
Were the kids excited that you guys got back together?
Yeah, no, they were thrilled. My little one, he was only one when we split up, so he didn't really ever know us together. So it was exciting for him, but certainly for Jacob, my older one. I mean, he was about 4. He remembers that time period, and so it was awesome. We had we had a little wedding, and the boys participated in the wedding, and it was it's really awesome.
Did you throw
story.
like a big, like the first time around, a big party, or was it kind of a courthouse wedding type deal?
It was a little more of an intimate thing, just kind of close family and friends, and we didn't want to. We're more small crowd kind of people anyway, but.
I'm sorry, that's the first time? The first time you got married was small?
Oh no, the first time it was more of like eloping. Like we actually got married in a church, but it wasn't. It was just us, and but we did something a little more formal for second time.
Second time around.
Yeah.
And it must have been really small because I didn't get my invitation.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, I knew I was forgetting something.
That's good times. Well, even though your youngest didn't remember you two together, he still knew that your husband now is his dad.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it was like, oh wow, Dad and Mom are getting together. This is amazing.
Oh yeah, he knew that. I mean, and again, he had a relationship with him during the period that we were apart, but it was just never. I don't know that the connection was there for him in terms of us being a couple.
Right.
And so that was an adjustment to get through.
All right. So I learned this recently about you. You have been on a podcast.
I have.
And I'm guessing here, and tell me if I'm wrong, the driver of you being on that podcast is you are a published author, or is that not why you were on the podcast? Was it to talk about the book and everything associated with the book? Was that?
Yeah, that was the primary reason. Yeah.
So tell us about your book, and then we'll come back to the podcast.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So, after our remarriage, I guess a few years into it, I started to have this little voice inside me telling me that I need to like write a book about these experiences that I just shared with you. And I, part of me was like, well, gosh, there are plenty of women that have been through divorces and have even had cancer and other stuff, and maybe even both. And like, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm anything special. I'm just day-to-day person. So part of me is like, no. And also I'm not a reader. I don't even like to read.
Somewhat ironic that you've written a book now.
Well, right. So everything about me was like, why on earth, should I write this book? Stop. But I don't know. I felt like it was, God like pushing me to tell my story and share it with women so that like, maybe younger women facing similar challenges so they can have some motivation. And I don't know, I just have felt like this kind of mission and calling, on my life. And it was just gradual feelings. I worked on the book for several years on and off. And I changed it multiple times, and I omitted stuff, and then I added stuff back. And there's a bunch of other stuff in the story that I haven't gone into depth about that sort of connects to, again, some of those like kind of epiphanies that I had. But the book is called Pain with Purpose. And it's to highlight how, in my mind, in my belief, we have bad things that happen to us in life. Everybody does. But there is likely some positive outcome of those bad things. Either they help us to learn and grow from whatever the challenge is. They help us to lead to something better in the future that we may never expect, like, getting remarried when you think you're going through this devastating divorce and everything's all over, or like they help somebody else. Maybe whatever challenge you're having is an encouragement or an inspiration to somebody else. And like, I believe that everything kind of connects together in that way. And so the book is about that. And, again, it goes into some more details about that. And so to connect the podcast to it, I met this wonderful woman named Patricia Brooks when or earlier in my career at my current job at the big bank.
Right.
And we hadn't been in touch for a while. We had disconnected, and then I don't know. At some point, I connected with her again, and I learned that she had moved to France. And it was this big, bold move that she made, where she said, "Hey, I'm going to leave my corporate job. I'm going to, I have this dream to live in another country, and France in particular, and I'm just going to drop everything I know about here and the comfort of my life, and I'm going to go and move to another country and start fresh." And she wrote a book about it called Growing Bold. And, it was about how our lives, you only live once, and time goes by quickly. If you have something in your life that you feel like a calling to do, you need to move forward with it, and how to give like people the courage to go ahead and make that step and do it. So I learned about her book, and I talked to her, and then I learned later she had started a podcast to write about, her experiences in this journey that she went on, and there were a few other pieces to it too. And anyway, she invited me to be part of her podcast because she really inspired me to move forward with the book, because I was really on the fence about it, and several times I just said forget the whole thing, and I just scrapped it. And then I had a few inspirations, but she was definitely one of them. So.
Why were you thinking about not publishing or not finishing it?
I don't know. I think just it's a bit uncomfortable sharing your personal, details, in such depth with people you don't know, but I'd say more so people you do know.
Sure.
Like my goal is to get this book to like a bunch of people that I've never met and never will meet. But obviously a lot of people that I do know obviously are going to read it too, and they have. And, so there's a bit of discomfort about that. And also just maybe it resonates with me. Maybe I see the way the pieces have fallen together and the way it's changed my life. But like others might not feel the same. They're like, God, I just wasted my time. And, what
That's
does Rachel think she is? I don't know. I just,
So natural
to doubt
self-doubt.
yourself
Yeah,
and
sure.
kind of, so.
But normal stuff.
Yeah, I think everybody goes through some of that.
Yeah.
Daniel's trying to quit this podcast.
Well, I was getting ready to ask,
I
did
would-
you ever doubt the podcast, or did you just
Daniel knows
go all in?
I have never doubted. So we have this little thing that we do. I don't know that we've ever put this on recording.
No, nobody knows about it.
I live in a 1 to 10 world. Like I can feel a 1 and I can feel a 10. Daniel would argue that I live around 8 or 9 most of the time. I try to live around 8 or 9 for sure.
Yeah.
Daniel's range is 3 to 6. And so his average is around 4.5.
It's right in the middle.
It's almost. It's a little below.
It's like
the
a
5.
pessimistic middle. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're close to the middle.
Realist, maybe, or
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I can usually tell where between 8 to 10 Paul is by the first few words of our phone call. If he's like, guess what? Then I know he's scaring 10 at that
he's
point.
in the 8+.
Yeah.
Well, but Paul has the 1s and 2s.
Sure.
He just doesn't make those visible necessarily to you or others. Right?
I usually hide those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very insightful.
Yeah. I've told you. I live 1 to 10.
a hunch.
I just show
1 to 10, not 8 to 10.
My 6 to 10 is more obvious than my 1 to 5 for sure.
Yeah. No, I like to keep tempered expectations, and there's a lot of self-doubt. Yeah. But I think that, and also, I mean, writing a book and like really just laying yourself and your epiphanies and your experiences bare for the world to see. I think that it would scare the crap out of me because there's so much vulnerability required, and I would just picture being at like Thanksgiving and like my random cousin being like, "Hey, I read that chapter where you like told us about, I don't know, like something really deeply not embarrassing,
personal,
but just
anyway.
yeah. So it's like it's incredible that you put that all that vulnerability out there. I think that's like there's a strength in that. So even through the self-doubt.
Are you glad you did it?
No, I am. I felt this relief when I did it. Like, this is what I was supposed to do, and I did it. If people don't like it, not everybody's going to like it. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like I did, what I set out to do. I don't have plans to do any other book, though, because I'm not a writer, and that was a really
Or a reader.
really involved,
Or a
difficult
reader.
thing to do. But yeah, and I share like several other pretty deep things, which I'm not sharing with you guys today because like I don't, it's more of a, hey, if you read the book, you'll find out about it.
So you're teasing our listening audience, and you're also assuming that we can't handle.
Well, you
the
might
depth, maybe.
realize after you read the book why I would have been apprehensive about publishing the book. That's all.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
So,
all right, good.
I mean, even to talk very generally about just getting divorced, getting remarried, and like some of the details of like my cancer and some other stuff that I go into is that's still sharing, but there's
Right.
like a bit of a deeper level there too.
Well,
Okay,
So.
all right. That was a really good tease. We're learning or trying to learn how to tease. We're not very good at it right now.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Paul has trouble reading in general, so I don't think you have a lot to worry about there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the issue is like if I'm going to learn about your story through the book, Daniel's probably going to have to read it to me.
And then I get stopped for all the big words, but
Yeah, if Daniel says a 3-syllable or more word, then I give him crap about it.
Okay, well, you don't have to worry about those words in my book.
It's
so.
nice.
all right, there we go.
Part of the reason Rachel's on this podcast.
I like
love
to,
it.
It's my language.
I like to keep it simple. I don't like all the fancy stuff. Although you break out the big words every once in a while.
Not
Paul.
relative to Daniel, I don't.
I used to think, man, that Paul Gilman has such a wonderful vocabulary.
And then you meet other people and you're like, no, that's not true, obviously.
I think you talk yourself down.
It's all good.
So the book, Pain with Purpose, is the name, by Rachel Adcock. I like the concept a lot, and I think that Paul and I have talked about it before. I think, suffering or going through a trial out of which you come out the other end stronger. It's like it's classic like hero's journey stuff. Just you got to go and face the dragon to get the gold. Like I love that, and that's what that kind of thinking is what I use to motivate myself through times of difficulty. So
Yeah, I think part of the difference, one of the things that Daniel does is he tries to find situations where he can, I excuse the term here, but force the struggle, manufacture the struggle.
manufactured struggle.
And I think I don't think anybody would ever say, hey, where do I sign up for cancer? Or, hey, where do I sign up for marriage, divorce, and then remarrying the same person? But the spirit of what we're talking about is the same. Struggle does lead to positive things, if nothing more than you learn from.
Well, and for the person
Yeah.
that's in it, like they can identify with it. For somebody that hasn't really had many struggles, it may be hard for them to really understand if they haven't been through it. But yeah, and there are other people that like feel that way. I actually had first named the book "Everything Happens for a Reason," and they're like 40 other books named "Everything Happens for a Reason," or I don't know exactly.
Everything Happens
how
for a
many.
Reason, number
But I was
7.
like, oh my god! Like I put all this thought. I mean, not that "Everything Happens for a Reason" is like a real unique sort of name, but I don't know. I guess I just didn't think there were like that many people that really thought that, and there's a bunch that were. So there is another book similar to "Pain with Purpose," but it's not exactly the same. So I think I'm the only one
With that title?
Or really close to it. But I was like, man, I hope, because I don't know where the idea came from, but I was really excited about it. I thought it was a little more power, a little more oomph to it.
The current title.
I
yeah.
like it a lot.
Well, and even,
Yeah, so-
even if there are other books named Pain with Purpose, there's nothing Pain with Purpose by Rachel Adcock.
That's right.
Right. And if somebody else has even my name without the book title, like that's kind of odd. Although there are a bunch of people with the name Adcock. I
Yeah,
learned
there
about
are.
that a lot too. I'm like, they're not related to me. I don't know. It just seems,
Maybe they
I
are.
feel like I have a pretty obscure, maybe they are.
Distant.
Maybe,
Maybe.
yeah.
Super distant.
Yeah.
So tell us about your podcast experience with Patricia.
Patricia, yeah. No, it was good. kind of sharing my journey and, trying to relate to her. Her audience is mostly an audience that I think is looking for ways to try to, gain the courage or the motivation to accomplish X, whatever X is. And so it was a little bit more of a targeted, discussion. But yeah, it was good. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't really think I would like a podcast. I say I like it better than I like the fact that it's not on video. I like that part about about the podcast. But I have trouble myself actually listening to podcasts because my attention span is like 5 minutes long. So I had even asked Paul. I was like, I'd seen a few of the Pods of One podcasts and I was like, man, they're like 2 hours long. Y'all really talk for like 2. I don't know that I can really hang on that long.
Our longest recording, we didn't record all of this, but we spent 7.5 hours with one guest. That was a solid work.
Not in one sitting.
Yeah, one sitting.
In one sitting. You sat here in these chairs.
We had breaks.
Well, it was not here, but yeah. It's all good.
You took like a 15-minute break and then came back. And
back to the audio thing. Daniel and I picked this format because we have audio faces.
we have really good faces for radio. Yep.
That's right.
Podcasts are the thing. I mean, people listen to them when they're driving and,
And people aren't driving as much.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's the only thing you're doing, like just pressing play and staring at the screen, it's probably not going to hold your attention that long. But if you're folding laundry or cooking or driving,
right.
It's like a little fun thing to have on in the background.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, I'm not driving nearly as much now as I used to. I used to listen to podcasts pretty frequently. I listen to from work.
Yeah.
Now, I'm at home all day, so I don't know.
There are other things.
I don't think about it as much.
There are other things to do.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Our revenue's taking a hit.
Right. all the vast pennies that move in and out of Pods of One. So is Patricia still doing her podcast?
She is. Yeah.
Why don't you hook us up? We'll be on her podcast together.
Yeah. I'd love to.
We can inspire people to
start their own
podcast.
Yeah. Or she can inspire people to move to France.
Yeah.
I'd love to connect you guys.
We'd love to have her on too.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. She has it's called the Courage Catalyst is her, I guess it's her business, but she has a website and then the podcast that's connected to it. So
nice.
That's a good name.
Courage Catalyst.
Yeah, dude.
Do you think it's better than Pods of One?
I don't know. It's pretty good.
Daniel, it's very catchy.
Daniel loves the name Pods of One because he came up with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But also, I do acknowledge that it's not immediately, podcast names, you kind of have to, the name's got to indicate what it's about to a certain level. Pods of One is like, what is that? What does that even mean? So,
and then we get the question a lot, and then we give long answers, and we're tired of the answer about halfway through.
And we're like, we don't even know. They're like, what's it about? We're like, we don't know. I mean,
it's all good.
Anything and everything.
I asked the same question. But.
So I don't think you mentioned your husband's name. Did you mention?
It's Fred. Yeah, I guess maybe I didn't mention
Fred's
his name. That's why my license plate says Fred's wife.
Yeah, there it is.
So, I figured you already knew, Paul.
Well, our listeners don't. Rachel.
No, I know. I'm just messing.
So tell us about Fred. Tell us more about Fred than what you've told us thus far.
Well, he's a great hardworking guy. He does a little bit of everything in kind of the handyman arena, if you will, electrical, HVAC, plumbing. I mean, he can fix just about anything, and he has a long list at our house that I give him as well there. But yeah, I mean that's what he does for a living. And then we have the same taste in music. We like to go see live music together, which is something that we're really struggling with.
A bit of a bummer recently. Yeah.
This situation we're in right now, but yeah, music, shooting pool. We really have just a lot of the same, interests and philosophies and just,
Right on.
I don't know. I think we were meant to be together. So
yeah, right on. That's awesome. Tell us about Jacob. Besides the fact that he's scaring the crap out of you driving around without you.
Yeah, Jacob is he is a character. He's got his own style that he's developed over the last year or so. It's kind of I wouldn't call it maybe to the extreme of like goth, but he has like longer hair and he actually just dyed it, and he's got earrings. And,
He's being independent. He's being his own kid, yeah.
Yeah,
We used to call
independent.
that emo back in the day.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Emo? I don't know.
Well, actually, emo is. I almost said emo, but I was like, oh, they probably won't know what emo is. But I should maybe thought.
Daniel's
Daniel.
only a few years older than.
Goth was like way more intense than emo.
Yeah.
when I was a
Emo
kid.
is actually, I think, what he's considered to be is like.
It's a tamer form of
like
Yeah.
he listens to like Green Day and My Chemical Romance and like
Yeah, he loves like alternative rock. He loves hip hop music too. He likes a little bit of everything. But yeah,
Nice.
loves music. Was never a sports guy. We tried all the sports growing up. Was never really interested in it. He did wrestling for a few years, but he's just not made for sports. He's gotten into skateboarding recently though. That's
cool.
kind of a new thing for him. But he's just kind of he mixes it up and has a bunch of different interests. And he's extremely talented in making beats, like on his
Oh.
computer. He can make
okay.
like amazing. I mean, I seriously think he could be professional with it. And
cool.
so, yeah,
And it
that's a
sounds
big
like he
interest in
enjoys
him.
doing it, right?
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's just an amazing kid. He's got a big heart, and he's a teenager, and there's the struggles that come with that. Definitely the
Yeah, I know. I know what you're talking about.
independence.
me too.
Yeah. Right. Well, I know because it's again pretty
because
recent.
7 years ago you
Yeah.
were a teenager.
Yeah, and then you're younger. You said he was 13, Tyler.
Tyler is 13. Tyler is my sports guy, though. He loves all sports, but like football and basketball, probably his favorite ones. He is also very musically inclined, but not really with like the beats and stuff. He sings, and he has actually made a few songs recently that he's recorded. He and Jacob have collaborated a little bit on a couple of
Nice.
songs,
Wow.
but then they got in an argument, and then that just kind of got squashed.
the
But he
Beatles.
loves to sing. He loves to act. He's been in tons of plays, and he's just wanting to be in front of an audience. And he's very extroverted. Jacob's very introverted. They're really like night and day in many ways. But awesome kid.
Both
Yeah,
both
they-
in the music. Did they get that from mom or dad or neither?
Well, they get it more from their dad. He has some. I mean, he doesn't really play instruments, but he has like a really good ear for music, and he. I don't know. I think they get it. They get it definitely more from his side. I don't have a musical bone in my body, but I love music. So
What kind
Yeah,
of
so-
concerts did you guys go to before the Rona hit?
oh man, a little bit of everything. We probably one of the more recent and enjoyable concerts was the Foo Fighters. We're both big Foo Fighter fans.
cool.
And
Does that mean Nirvana as well, or really just Foo?
oh no, love Nirvana too. Fred actually saw Nirvana some time ago. I was like, man, I wish I couldn't
Yeah.
have gone to that. But yeah,
But you still
it's a
got
big
Dave
Dave
Grohl.
Grohl fan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Grohl's
he's
amazing.
awesome.
He's a pretty talented cat.
he is.
Oh yeah, no, this is one of the best ones I've been to for sure.
Wow.
Right. Nirvana's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's a drummer for them, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
or he was. And Foo Fighters will be in the Hall of Fame as well, and he'll be.
Are they not in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. They're still active. They tend not to have still active guys in. They may be. Green
Oh,
Day's
so it's
in.
more of a after they.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. Do you know the rules, Daniel?
Nope.
For Hall of Fame? Yeah, I don't
No,
know.
I
Surprised
don't.
you don't know this rule. I figured you would know him, Danny.
No, yeah, you're right. I'm really falling short here.
All right, so Daniel, go ahead and ask the standard question.
Dude, I was
which-
about to ask you to ask, but I'll ask it.
Do you know what this question is?
I don't know that I do.
It's a standard question we ask.
That might
All of our
indicate that
guests.
I have not made it to the very end of any of the podcasts that I've
No,
listened to if I
all
don't
good.
know this question.
We assume that the average listening time is about 3 minutes per episode. for
Yeah,
listeners.
we always we always leave a lot of like expletives and crazy stuff right at the end because we know people will never get to
Oh
it.
wow,
But,
crazy stuff. Okay.
Yeah, we say some things that probably could get us arrested, actually.
right, but
Oh, wow.
But nobody ever makes it to the end, so
It's
we don't get in
safe.
trouble. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it may as well not exist.
Right.
So
that was our really awkward attempt at teasing.
here's the question. So given that you were 25 years old and like healthy and no kids or obligations in your life, would you rather join the military or pursue being a stand-up comedian with all your might?
Oh wow. That's
She
a
clearly didn't get to the end of any of these.
Really a tough question. Yeah. Well, I mean, I immediately gravitate towards the stand-up comedian. I don't feel like I would make it in the military. I don't know. I just think it takes a really tough person like a Paul Gilman, for example, to
Well, and ruggedly handsome. As
I don't know. I think of boot camp and all the other. I don't know. I don't feel like I would do well as much as I want to serve my country and so forth. But the stand-up comedy stuff, like, it's actually something that, like, I maybe wanted to do at some point in my life. Like, it was a hidden thing that I never really said out loud. But I'm not funny enough, and I don't like standing in front of audiences, so that would be, like, kind of bad. But if I had to really choose between just those two things, I guess that would be it.
You're
Yeah.
Is this going somewhere? I
No,
feel like
it's not. It's meant to learn more about you through that question. So
Yeah.
I think you would be better than you're actually saying at the moment. And Daniel has a theory, and I tend to subscribe to this theory that if you grind and learn as you're grinding, you can be pretty funny, even though you're not the most obvious kid from high school that would have become a comedian.
It's all about reps, baby.
Yeah,
Reps are all you need to get good at anything.
kind
you-
of like this podcast.
Yeah.
So your comment then is not unique to being a comedian. It's for anything.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to do, you believe that you can do it if you
If you put in reps.
put your mind to it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm
Okay.
sure, yeah. I mean, you can't be 6 feet no matter how hard you try if you're not 6 feet tall. So there is that element to it. But pretty much anything, I think, there you could find an example of someone that did not have natural talent for it, but loved it anyway, and just worked their ass off until they got really good at it. There are plenty of. One thing I think of a lot is jiu-jitsu, the martial art, and there are black belts that are like, I was bad at all sports, not athletic, terrible at defending myself, and I just kept doing jiu-jitsu for like 15 years, and I just kept showing up, and now they're black belts and can like completely destroy everybody else in the gym. So yeah, that's my theory.
Huh.
Did you like his example of jujitsu?
Well, yes. I guess I was in my head. I was going like back and forth between. Well, could anybody do jujitsu or karate or something like that with the proper training? And does that apply to everything, or is it something that's where there's maybe more of a regiment and you have a skilled person that's like teaching you how to do whatever it is. Like I don't know. I
Right.
think like the comedian example. Do you have a skilled comedian teaching you? I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. I'm just trying.
I don't think you
I
would.
don't know if it's apples to apples, but
Let's pull that out of the yeah. So you're right. It's not a great comparison, but I think for comedian you have to come up with your own style. But I still think that if you just put in reps and get feedback and like figure out what makes people laugh and what doesn't,
And can endure how awful it is initially, right?
And
You
you
talk
can-
about vulnerability. You were super vulnerable
yeah,
starting out.
a lot of pain too. Talking about pain, but if you keep going through that, I think that you will get better.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you couldn't get better without the pain, right?
Right.
And you can't get better without making mistakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pain
Yeah.
is weakness leaving the body, something
Oh
like
gosh,
that.
now we're getting into it.
Yeah.
That's what is that? A military thing? Or?
That's some, like, old people say shit like that. Yeah, that's all that is.
Well, how do you
Yeah.
know? How are you familiar with it then?
We used to say it when I was a kid. I think some coach said it to me.
I think I heard it in a movie. It's like a war movie or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be an army thing.
Not a
though.
bad. It's not a bad saying, unless you're like, unless you broke your arm and it hurts. It's like, is that
But your,
really
your bone's going to come back stronger.
okay? All right, let me think of something else.
That's how it works.
I don't know.
Hey, so 10 years from now, kids are doing their own thing. What does your life look like?
Man, I need to think more into the future about that. That's a great question.
Are you a planner by
I am.
nature?
Oh, I am, but I cannot imagine my life like without like my day-to-day family and my kids like being around. Like I just can't imagine being an empty nester. I know at some point it'll happen, and we've talked about traveling and like maybe even moving. I don't know if we would, but we've talked about like San Diego would be an awesome place to live.
That
We
is
lived there a few
it's
years
65
ago. Oh my
to
God.
75 degrees, no humidity, gorgeous scenery,
Yeah.
and
Got the ocean.
a bottle of water costs $17. I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
crazy expensive out there.
Doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I need to come up with something like exciting and bold.
Doesn't have to be exciting.
To think forward to, but I don't know.
So, like, the travel bucket list for me is I want to get to all 50 states. I think I'm like 7
Mm-hmm.
or 8 short. I want to go to 6 of the 7 continents. Antarctica doesn't really do much for me. But the other 6 for sure. Mm-hmm. I think I've hit 3 of the 6. So, yeah, traveling a lot.
I have a whole list of travel desires. I don't know if it's quite as broad as what you just described, but maybe it should be.
Where's the next place you would go if you could go anywhere in the world?
Well, the next place I am going is to Toronto for the first time, which isn't that exciting.
It is.
In late
Toronto's cool.
August. But we're actually, it's funny, you mentioned the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We're actually starting in Cleveland, and we're going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame while we're there, and we're going
Nice.
to Cedar Point Park. They have like supposedly the biggest roller coasters in the U.S., and then we're going to drive up to Buffalo, and then we're going to go to Toronto, and it's like this trip. So anyway, I'm kind of excited
cool.
about that. But yeah, if I could choose anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
gosh, I don't know. The first places that come to mind are Japan and Australia.
Super different than.
But I went to
America.
Europe for the first time last year. It was really my first time out of the country, actually, with the exception of like the Bahamas, which I don't think that really counts.
It technically does, but not
So,
really.
well, it,
Yeah.
it counts when you haven't been anywhere else. But then once you've been to other places, like it just doesn't feel like it.
So where'd you go in Europe?
But, so actually, I went with Jacob's high school Latin class.
Nice.
Took a trip, and so I went with a bunch of teenagers, and we went to Italy, multiple places in Italy, Rome, Florence, and then we went to Barcelona, which actually we ended the trip there, and that was my favorite of the entire trip. Was
Really?
the day really I spent in Barcelona, but
Like better than Florence and Rome?
yeah.
Wow, I've never
I
been.
didn't care for Rome actually very much at all. It's kind of dirty and I don't know.
Yeah.
People weren't as nice. I liked Florence a lot, and then we went to Assisi and Pisa and a couple other places. I mean, I liked Italy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was wonderful. But Barcelona, I don't know. I just liked the vibe and the people there, and I don't know. Just
Sounds like a
felt
cool
more-
city, and they're like
Yeah.
they're trying to be different, or they're in Catalonia, which is different from Spain, so they have this like rebel thing going on. No, but I say that because when I visit, I think Florence is probably like the most enchanting and just kind of magical place I've ever been to. Like everything about it. So I feel like I got to make it to Barcelona now.
So you've already been to Florence. Did you do this like on a like? How did you?
Yeah,
how
it
did
was
you go?
He
it
was
a family.
in high school. His sports teams would travel to Europe for tournaments.
I know it was ridiculous.
What sport?
Swimming. I was.
Wow.
Yeah, but I wasn't that good. It was just.
I mean, I'm like, hey, where's the basketball tournament? Oh, it's in another part of Richmond. Where Daniel's like, oh yeah, we're going from Cairo to Germany.
Yeah, it was a weird.
Yeah, like when I was your age, I couldn't even dream of like a trip like that. So,
Yeah,
She was pumped to get
even
into
your
Richmond.
current age, certainly not as a teenager.
Right. And this is why like this whole manufactured suffering thing is like a part of me is because I think I kind of had it really, really great and easy. But so the Florence thing is that when I was like, I think 18 or 19, we still lived in Egypt. And so Italy's like not far away. So we just did a family Christmas trip in Florence and Rome. And Florence was just like, it was just mind blowing. It's just so amazing.
Do you know where my family did their Christmas trips?
Wait. River.
Nope.
Cahuilla.
I'm talking about when I was a kid, man.
Oh,
We would go from our bedrooms down to the family room. Those were our Christmas trips.
Piankatonk.
Pyeongtaek sounds more fun, actually.
Oh, yeah. So, Barcelona. Is that your answer, though? Is that where you'd go?
I think it is. I think we just backed into it.
Well, I mean, if I had to go back to somewhere, I've
Oh,
already
she's been there, yeah.
But I'd say
But
Australia.
that kind of vibe.
Yeah,
Sydney.
but I don't want to be on a plane that long though. So
Or
that's the part that I would
or a
feel.
ship even longer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the part that makes me a little.
But if you
iffy
stayed
about
for like 3 months, it would be
it. Well, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
good times.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for coming out. I think I told you around 8:30 we would end, and it's a little after 8:30.
Look at that.
I don't want you to be super tired on your way back home. But
Oh, no, it's
thank you
good.
so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Your story is inspiring. I learned more about you than I knew coming in, so I'm glad we got to do this, and I hope we can get this out.
Is your book on Amazon? Where can people buy it?
Amazon. It's also on eBay for the 3 people that did not use Amazon.
Well, I was going to say,
but,
eBay's still a thing?
I guess it is. I had a couple people mention that I don't know, they don't like Amazon for whatever reason. I mean, I can
And
see.
these people
I
are
can
in
see
their
why some
these
might.
people are in their 80s.
Yeah, but well, no.
I mean, I try to avoid Amazon. I try to use Books A Million.
I
but
need to avoid Amazon. It's
It's so it's so
Oh,
cheap.
man.
But yeah, okay. So Amazon or eBay, Paying with Purpose.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us and sharing all your story with us.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
If If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to subscribe through whichever app you're using. To share your thoughts, head over to our website at podso1.io, and there you can comment on episodes or send us feedback directly. Thanks for listening.